Hello and welcome to Exposure. I'm your host, Cassie Boughton. As the largest private arts and media college in the nation, Columbia College now offers academic programs in 120 different concentrations. Today, we're going to explore 3 of the lesser-known programs that Columbia has to offer, as well as how the Portfolio Center is helping students showcase their work in order to prepare for life after graduation. You're probably not aware, but Columbia College is the only school in the country that offers an undergraduate degree in poetry. Let's find out how Tony Trigiolio, the director of the program, is making sure that this often overlooked major is having a lasting impact here at Columbia.
My name's Julie Rouse. I've been a poetry major here. I'm graduating actually this semester, so this is my 4th year here. Ever since I was little, I've been writing, and I've been writing poetry for a long time too, so I'm a little bit older coming into college, so I worked for about 10 years after I graduated from high school and wrote that whole time, and then decided I should probably do something with it. So,
the students who come into the program are students who really have a passion for words, obviously because it's poetry, but also, you know, a real passion for imagery, you know, like you would have in a film student or a painter, and a real passion for sound like you would have in a music student. So in a way, our typical poetry students are students who also have a real intense secondary interest in something musical or visual, because poetry is so much about, you know, not just language, but the music of language and the visual effect of language. You know, poetry is the one art form that gets the least amount of attention, and I don't say that as a complaint. That's just the way it is, and you know that's okay. Just like more people are going to buy pop music than go to see a jazz show or something, and that's just the reality of it. What's really great about the poetry major, though, is I think that by having it as a major, and it's the only undergraduate poetry major in the United States, so having it here at Columbia and having it here in Chicago, in a major city, I think it says something about our culture's commitment to poetry in the early part of the century that we're in, that, you know, it's still not as popular as an art form as, to use an extreme, like, you know, Hollywood movie or something, but it does say something about how important it is, and it does say something about how, you know, people are choosing poetry as their preferred mode to express themselves. More and more people are doing that, and I think, you know, having it at Columbia makes it, you know, having this major at Columbia is crucial since we're an arts and media college. It's a way of saying that, you know, you become a poet by reading poetry, but also by writing it. And, you know, it's not something that you study for 3 years before you write. You study and you write it all at once, and you get your hands dirty right away reading it and writing it. And this is the kind of school where we do that in all of our majors. The typical student is thinking of poetry as their main artistic career, but there's also a sense that there has to be something that helps, you know, that sort of can be the patron for the muse, which could be, a lot of our students want to go into teaching, and a lot of our students do go into teaching or into publishing or editing, or they manage arts centers around in different parts of the country. But in terms of, so it's not a traditional career track in that way, but we do prepare our students for a career as poets, for a career in the world of poetry, and that, you know, where success is measured by publishing, by doing readings, by building an audience of readers. And so, you know, that's the career we're preparing them for. It's just not traditional like you'd find at other schools where you'd get a 4-year degree in accounting and then you'd look for a job as an accountant. You know, that wouldn't work for many students at Columbia anyway, but especially not in poetry, and never worked for us as faculty at Columbia either. So, you know.
We have the Columbia Poetry Review, which they take 30%, I think, student work. So that's a good opportunity for people. And professors are always good resources, so people can talk to their professors about publishing opportunities and also what they want to do after graduation. I think everyone here is really supportive and wants to make sure that people have goals and have a career that they can at least work with. And there's small classes too, that really helps. So really, when you're done with the program, you end up knowing a lot of the people in it as well as most of the professors.
I think the typical poetry student is usually someone who is really surprised that there is such a thing as a poetry major. So the typical poetry student is kind of like the typical poetry faculty member, really excited to be at a place where poetry is at the center of education rather than on the margins. And you know, a lot of schools it's just you take 1 or 2 poetry workshops if they're offered, and they're just sort of an add-on to your degrees. Most of us are writing our first poems before we ever take a class in it, and so most students who take beginning workshop already have some kind of curiosity about the art form, or have been trying it out themselves, or doing that thing, writing poems and putting them in a desk drawer or keeping them in a journal. Or a lot of them are doing majors that are really close to poetry, like music or film, or you know, I haven't even talked about performance poetry. We get a lot of theater majors who want to study poetry so that they can do one-person shows or poetry performance, work in poetry performance. So we really get a mix of people from all over the school who have a curiosity about poetry as an art form and know that there's some way that it can connect to their major, and they're always right. I mean, there are connections. Poetry connects to every major we have at Columbia in some way, so it's great when they come to us with that in mind. Yeah.
Well, Columbia prides itself on being able to help students focus their thoughts and ideas into various forms of art. The product design program is taking it one step further. Kate Wambiscus, a senior in the product design program, tells how she's learning to turn her ideas into useful products that we can one day all enjoy.
My name is Kate Wambiscus, and I am a senior in the product design department at Columbia. Product design is literally designing products. It's making whatever and anything that a company would need, designing like the outer shell. There are many different concentrations that you can do with product design. Anything from furniture design to automotive design, and then you can do medical equipment or housewares like kitchen and organizational tools. It's very broad. Well, we start out in the beginning with our drawing classes. It's not like organic drawing, it's very precise drafting. And then we take CAD classes. Like I said, it's computer-aided drafting. It's an engineering program where you can build 3D models in the computer. And besides, like every semester we'll have like our product design class, like 1 through 5. And then, well, you know, like electives, which help you render in Photoshop and Illustrator, Flash, just as like electives. But the main classes are the drawing, the CAD, and then like the basic product design class. And when you're a senior, you need to take your thesis and portfolio. Yeah, the thing I really like is doing the CAD work and rendering. Rendering is making your 3D model look realistic and throwing it into a setting so it looks like a real product, even if you've built a model, maybe the model's not to full scale. I really love doing that, like the computer work. The technical stuff is my favorite. I could sit there all day and do it, and I love trying to get the products I make to look their best, to look like it's like a real product out there to put in my portfolio.
I just think that industrial design is a very interesting combination of science and art, so that's why I chose this field as my career. The most important thing I want to get across is critical thinking. I want them to think for themselves and try to challenge the current trend, the current theories. That's very important to think independently. That's the most important thing I consider in education.
Probably the most important talent is sketching. You need to be really good at getting your ideas onto paper really quickly and being able to read them, good sketching, and then just having a creative mindset. Just have an open mind for everything. Don't limit yourself, because it's hard. At first, when I started, I found myself like kind of constrained, but you really have to just be open to anything.
I think this field is important to the world because we, from our very emergence as humans with culture, we've been tool-wielding, tool-using, tool-bearing people. So whether it was a bone hammer, millions of years ago, or an iPod today, humans rely on tools.
I actually just heard after graduating, like an entry-level job, you can start anywhere between like 35 and 60 grand. And it only goes up from there. I wouldn't change anything. I loved all my classes. I've loved all my teachers. It's really great. I actually really love that all my teachers are full-time product designers. So you can really get your foot in the door and get a good sense of what's going on. They don't sugarcoat anything. You know what to expect, and having someone teach you that and they are already in that world doing that really helps. So I think that's a really great advantage. I would tell them it's great, you know, obviously if you're going to Columbia, you like art, and product design is perfect because you're doing sketching, you're building, and you're working on a computer. So you're really covering all aspects. It's not just one thing. So it's a lot of fun if you love to draw, but you can't constantly be doing that. It really is well-rounded.
In a city like Chicago, new buildings are constantly popping up all over the place. And once construction on the exterior is completed, it becomes the interior architect's responsibility to design the inside. Patricia Syed, a senior in Columbia College Interior Architecture program, is well on her way to giving Chicago's next skyscraper some inner beauty.
I originally went to Iowa State University, and I was attempting to major in architecture there, but I missed the city and I missed actually living in a space of architecture. Like Iowa City, Ames, Iowa is kind of small and rural. So I transferred back to Chicago to come to Columbia, and their program was more interior architecture, which I came to realize was what I was actually looking for. Interior architecture isn't something that most people have ever heard of. They've either heard of architecture, or interior design, or interior decorating. It's basically, we're given the exterior of a building, like whether it be commercial or residential, and we kind of put all of the innards within. It's like if we had a high-rise and the first floor we wanted to be commercial and the rest residential, you make it what the client wants, as opposed to just kind of an empty shell.
Interior architecture is the aspect of just the interior envelope of the space, and architecture is more of a broader aspect, dealing with everything within a space, a whole building or a whole office space, home, commercial space, where the interior just deal with certain aspects of a square footage or a specific area within the building.
Throughout high school, I took like drafting classes and a lot of art classes. I worked with all mediums, like jewelry, ceramics, just painting. It's good if you start with some form of art background. I remember my freshman year, we had to begin with like drawing classes, and a lot of people who had never really worked with art before struggled like pretty significantly, and those people are not with us anymore. We started with about a class of about 55, 60, and now there's 8 of us in my class. Like there's a high major change rate, because a lot of people think of it as they're going into something as like trading spaces or more of an interior decorating field, and there's like a lot more to it that they weren't expecting. Basically, like what we've kind of learned throughout the past 4 years is you're not designing for yourself, you're designing like for your client, which is kind of hard because in your mind you think you know what looks good, but if the client completely disagrees, it's essentially theirs. Granted, we're the ones who are like educated in it, so we kind of try and fix the path that they're going towards. Most of our getting a job after college or after we graduate goes through 2 of our teachers. They look at our portfolios and kind of direct us towards where we're going to intern, and then from there, theoretically, where we're going to get jobs. After graduating, you can work for a residential or commercial firm, or you can go into retail, like working at the Merchandise Mart. But if you go into retail, you kind of lose everything that you've learned like the past 4 years, because you're not keeping up as you would if you're working in a firm with like current product. So if you go that route, you're kind of stuck in retail. Otherwise, you can work for a firm itself and hopefully stay there. That's what all of us are kind of hoping to get into.
There's a community here that, you know, goes forward, I mean, you could be working with your instructors. So all of our instructors are working in the field. They are architects, licensed architects, or interior architects, and you know, some of these students who come out of here end up working for their firms or other firms, and they still have connections with our faculty here, our director, our coordinator, and you know, there's a great sense of community within the environment, which really helps the student once you're actually there. It's difficult when you're a freshman and a sophomore to really get a feel, because you're getting all this information and you're sure you want to enjoy yourself while you're at college, but you also want to know there's people there going to listen and to a certain extent care for what you do. And they do as long as you put your effort into it and you get to know the people and network, it all comes to you.
I actually recently had a potential freshman coming in and asking me questions about the major and like about the school itself. And it's basically, especially with interior architecture, like if you want it, like you'll like fight for it, sort of. It's, you take it into your own hands and you kind of make it what you want it to be. I love it. I mean, it's crazy stressful, but it's been a blast for the past 4 years.
Well, I think the best thing to do is make sure you want to do this. I mean, I think with anything, you got to ask yourselves, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. It is a hard program, but if you really want to do this and you keep on believing in yourself, you'll do fine. You know, you just got to keep telling yourself that I will just strive forward and, you know, do not look back, honestly. Because once you start thinking backwards a little bit, it hits you, you know. And it's a hard career, because sometimes there's so many people, they think they call it decorating or they call it interior design. It's not that. You know, it's not the flashiest thing you see on TLC or DIY Network, you know, where people could just, I'll just get some paint and some curtains and I'm done. It's much more than that. It's a whole new level. And if you really want to do it, go for it, I say. Don't let anybody tell you no. Just keep striving forward and working hard at it if you really want to continue on.
It's been a complete lack of sleep and complete lack of social life, and as most colleges, but it's definitely worth it. Like, you definitely get like a feeling of content, like a feeling of satisfaction when you present your project and people understand it and people just reciprocate really well. It's definitely a really, really good feeling of satisfaction.
Now that we've gained insight into some of Columbia's more obscure majors, let's see how the Portfolio Center is helping students gather all their hard work into something that's sure to impress their future employers.
I wish we were helping more students. I wish more students realized that this is so very important. It's important for students to know about the Portfolio Center because there are so many resources we can provide that supplement your education to make sure that you really are ready to become a professional. What we want to do at the Portfolio Center is make sure that your body of work is as ready to go and as close to the professional expectations as we can have it when you leave Columbia. One important thing to start with is figuring out what type of portfolio you need. So if you're a poetry major, you're going to have a writing-based portfolio. It's important that you have as many different types of writing samples that relate back to your career as possible. If you're a public relations major or marketing major, it's very, very important for you to document all the project work you've done so you can show somebody, I had this one idea for a PR campaign, here's how I took it and fleshed it out, and here's what the final pieces ended up looking like. Television and film, it's important that you're keeping samples of your work at all times. Make sure that you save those DVs and those DVDs so that they can find their place on your resume tape. I would say students should definitely be documenting as much of their work as they can, but just as much they should be listening to professionals, coming to events, talking to their faculty and advisors so they know what the important stuff to be saving is. We do portfolio production events for students, and some of them are open to actually all students, such as Business Card Day, which we offer at least 3 times, if not 4 times a semester, which offers students the opportunity to sit down with a graphic designer who will custom design their business card. As you become a junior, you can take advantage of industry expert appointments. As you become a senior, you can take advantage of our show-off program, and when you're a last semester senior or recent alumni, you can take advantage of portfolio production. Additionally, we also offer Photo Doc Day, which is a chance for students to get their work pieces photographed professionally. Headshot Day, which offers students who are interested in getting a headshot the chance to get a headshot taken for free. And as senior level students, we offer a few different types of events, one which help you get your reels and resume tapes cut by professional editors, and also a new event called Covered, which pairs you with a graphic designer who will create the cover for your reel, resume tape, demo CD, whatever you need. Everything at the Portfolio Center is free. Free, free, free.
Hello, Columbia College. My name is Sean Jordan. I'm a director and screenwriter here at Columbia. I'm in the MFA program in film and video. And you know, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Portfolio Center. It's been a fantastic resource for me. The Portfolio Center, for me, has helped me essentially kind of keep my career on track. I mean, you're working in your classroom, you're doing these different exercises, you're building material, but you know, you have to have it put together in a professional package so it can be presented to people outside of school. Get feedback on a trailer, get feedback on postcards, have somebody help you design the press materials. You know, it's all about kind of getting your work out there, and the Portfolio Center allows that to happen. And so it's all about getting a job after you graduate at Columbia.
I wish more students realized that this is so very important. I strongly encourage any students who are eligible to start taking advantage now, because it is such a valuable resource. Start looking for the Portfolio Center if you are concerned with how things are going to be after graduation.
Well, that about does it for this episode of Exposure. I hope you now have a sense of just how much Columbia College has to offer. For more information on this program profiled today or any other program at Columbia, visit the website shown on your screen. I'd like to encourage all you students out there to stop by the Portfolio Center to take advantage of their many resources and events. Until next time, I'm Cassie Boughton. Thanks for watching.